Greetings, everyone. Welcome to my sketchbook. I have an interesting idea. We're going to explore something interesting. I know I said that before, as far as the idea. It has to do with archaeology and how the person who uncovers something in some way gets to control some part of that narrative. What am I trying to say? Well, I think sometimes with archaeologists, they have to do a best guess because they're not able to decipher, language clues or, well, there's no one around to tell them whether they're right or wrong. So then they get to be the expert on whatever it is that they've dug up. That's a weird thing. It's kind of been that way for a long time. So what I'm going to draw is just going to be off the top of my head. No plan. There's no pre-penciling done here. I'm just going to see if I can build an animal or something. Yeah. So let's zoom in on this. Lock it down. And I'm going to start shoveling here somehow with this weird shaped shovel. In what ways do you think archaeologists have a story to tell with their findings? Is there sponsorship, let's say, for what they're bringing out of the ground? Who has dibs on that? Is it a museum? Is it a private funded thing? It makes you wonder about this kind of stuff. Is there kind of like an agenda? Now, I've drawn some pretty strange creatures over the years just for fun. And right now, I'm not really trying for anything in particular. I'm just trying to figure out bones and structures and I'm not even sure if I'm going this way with the face of the creature or this way. I kind of put a tear duct there, but really I'm just kind of swinging the pen around. I do kind of have a brow going. Yeah, I don't know where this is going. So it just so happens that if you see a set of bones, it's possible that those might be the only ones of its kind, or they're a copy of the original, or they're a compilation of bones collected, and since no one's able to really verify what's going on with them, it's assumed then that whatever that creature is was part of another group, that this is the type of things that they would have eaten. Already, I think this is kind of turning into sort of a dragon-like thing, since I've pointed the head in that direction, maybe. But it makes you wonder, what was the point of this archaeology in the first place? I don't know if I like the way that kind of goes there. We already know that there's creatures on this planet living right now that are extraordinary. Like a giraffe is an extraordinary creature to just be walking around for, eating leaves out of trees. That's an extraordinary creature. We kind of take it for granted a little bit, though. But what if there were not lots of a certain type of creature? What if there's a possibility, and I might have talked about this a little bit in the past, what if there was sort of like a goldfish kind of effect where if that creature didn't have a natural predator, and for some reason just lived a very long time but continued to grow. So some would say that a goldfish, for its size, adapts to the environment that it's in. That a goldfish could actually get much bigger than what we normally see, but they keep their size confined because of the size of the bowl that they're in and the amount of food that they might be consistently given. It's a weird sort of concept. So what is the lifespan of certain creatures like that? Well, most creatures, as part of how they might adapt, they also limit their lifespans. So you might hear stories of like the orca, how in captivity, if you just look at that dorsal fin, the fin on their back, even just their demeanor, they're very much defeated when they live in captivity. And rather than that fin on their back being kind of like straight up and down, it actually starts to slump. Now, you may not notice that in the background of most of I'd say every video I've posted on YouTube, there's usually like a Tommy Bahama camp shirt. This time around, and I'll see if I can show this to you at some point. In the background of this particular video, I have one that's actually, it's an artist designed Tommy Bahama shirt that has a whale on it, and it's beautiful. West Coast Native American designed shirt. But the idea that captivity doesn't do an animal much favors. We're only kind of catching on to this stuff, I feel like. I mean, we've all kind of known there's a sadness to certain creatures. And some creatures, with their domestication, they kind of look at whoever's living with them as the as part of their grouping or tribe or species, possibly, because they don't really they need to survive. So there's a couple of cats at my house who I think look at me as kind of like another version of them. It's weird and kind of fun to think of them like that. It's the year of the horse, so in some ways I think I probably captured a little bit of a horse with what I have going on here. I have lots of stuff on my mind at the moment. My time right now, this is a Wednesday afternoon. So that doesn't mean anything in particular. Today I woke up, looked outside, there was like postcard kind of beautiful snow. So I had to do some shoveling again. I knew it wouldn't last long, but I wanted to get most of it before any part of it kind of wanted to stay around. So I did a little bit of shoveling. For some reason, shoveling to me is one of those kind of things that allows me to fall inside my head for a moment or so. I wasn't thinking about any of this stuff, mind you. But it allows me to kind of fall inside my head. Neighbors will go by, you say hi, you talk about, oh, we got more snow again, or whatever it is that you just sort of say in your minute-long interaction, and then you go back to doing whatever it is they're doing, and you say hi to the dog, or why ever they're out wandering around. Well, this really is turning into a dragon, isn't it? Not my plan, but that's okay. But I worry sometimes about the things that you uncover. Some things are kind of buried on purpose. And sometimes you're not meant to dig those things up. Like if you were so excited that you know, you were out and about, you're treasure hunting, you find a cool barrel, let's say, in the ground, you're super excited about it. You don't really understand that it may not be a pirate that put that thing there. Wow, that could be a big barrel of chemical waste, or let's say even kind of worse, uh, nuclear waste. You could be out and about treasure hunting and you could find a barrel of waste. And you would uncover that thing. And what a horrible, horrible discovery that would be. Well, some parts of archaeology to me feel like that. Uh, they don't like to refer to themselves as being grave robbers. And, well, that's kind of what they are. Some things get buried, truth, whatnot. It's a strange thing. Right now, I'm just kind of doing a brain dump in case you're wondering what's going on. I remember being a kid and seeing a creature, and I'll try to remember it. And I wasn't planning on talking about this, mind you, but seeing a creature that they assumed was a young female, seeing her bones, and she was thought to be uh, a relative of human beings. My goodness, why does that name escape me at the moment? Does it start with an L? If I don't remember it here soon enough, I will. I'll look it up before I post this. Uh, but they'll talk about stuff like the missing link or something like that, the evolution of human beings. But she was alone. They found a singular set of bones. So they built and structured a society around what they found. And I don't know if you know this, and I'm pretty sure that you do. Human beings don't all really look alike. There's things about us that are comparable. Uh, we can tell that we're related to each other, but for the most part, I can identify who that person is from that other person in most cases. Like I can tell just by looking, uh, for example, Jim Carrey doesn't look exactly the same as Denzel Washington, for example. Um, so when they find the remains of another human being and then just come up with a story that this was human like, but a distant relative of a human, I kind of like cringe at that kind of stuff just to say, well, this person might have just looked a little bit different. Anyway, science. Science. And what can I do with this? I don't know why I came up with this horse, dragon eared. This almost looks like a moose like jaw going on here. What kind of eyes should I give this creature, I wonder? What if, in the manufacturing of this creature, so I suppose if I kind of focus a little bit on the teeth here, uh, some part of the teeth here, because there's no fangs, these look like they could be used to grind uh, very coarse grains. So maybe this was a herbivore. I don't know where that came from. Oh, I think that uh, Lucy. Does that make sense to any of you? Like I said, I'll look that up. Uh, the remains of the young woman that they claimed was somehow human related. Anyway, archaeology freaks me out just because, as I said, the people that do the digging up somehow get to control that information. Some people call that gatekeeping. But really, science is one of those things that's always about best guess, or you're pushing something very specific in what you're doing. Now, I don't want this to be so sinister. What can I do? What can I do? Well, let's change the eyes in my mind, and we'll try to lighten this up a little bit too. Now, it might sound like I'm a conspiracy theorist. What I am is somebody that likes to ask questions, and I think that's more along the lines of what I'm about. Because sometimes I would like to say that I'm not super intelligent, but I'm very skeptical. Like I know a little bit about some things, and but I question a lot of things. I don't always just believe what I'm told. Um, let's curve this part of the brow up a little bit. I think that'll change a little bit of the look of this. And let's bring parts of this cheekbone out a little bit. I think that changes it a little bit. And we'll curve a bit of almost like musculature here. And we'll add a little bit more distance and shading underneath the brow there. I think that lightens it a little bit. Looks a little less angry. How often do you look at the intelligence of animals and marvel with their ability to communicate? That eye's set a little lower. That's funny. But marvel at their ability to communicate their wants or needs. So every so often in the videos, you probably hear a cat meowing in the background. That's my buddy Neville trying to get my attention for whatever reason. I promise you, that creature lives reasonably well. He's not always getting my attention, but that goes for Luna as well. Those cats are named after Potter adjacent characters, of course. I don't know where I'm going at the moment with this. Well, let's see. I'm under the impression that some part of human beings, and again, this has to be kind of theory, like, you can look at this from a religious lens, but I'd like to think that human beings are specific with the type of intelligence that we possess. That there wouldn't be any other creatures necessarily like human beings as far as intelligence goes. You can find creatures that are in a lot of ways parasitic, that will rely on other creatures to do things. You can have creatures that will leave their young with more nurturing creatures to be raised. That happens. But human beings are kind of unique of most of the creatures on the planet, if not the most unique creatures on the planet. When it comes to Darwin's theories on evolution, I would always fall towards adaptation more so than just a genetic sort of change that happens. So I don't necessarily look at monkeys as being really truly related to human beings. I think everything on the planet is kind of related because, our structures, our food sources, you kind of are what you eat. But as far as saying that at one time a human being was sitting in a tree and howling at something, you might say, well, aren't there people that kind of live primitively even to this day? To some degree. But the intelligence is there. And that's an entirely different thing to make another person less than based on a specific lifestyle that they might have. So it makes it easy to categorize a human being as being less evolved. If you can find a way to do that, in some ways you make them more animal-like. And then you could treat them differently. Perhaps that's it, isn't it? I don't know. I put a collar on this thing. And somehow, just almost automatically, you see the way that I did the shirt fold here? That is a strange thing going on. That's assuming that this creature is right-handed. And presumably male. Because if you were to hide something for whatever reason on the inside of your shirt, you would use your right hand to tuck it in so it's leftover right. Men's clothing tends to be. I can ramble on a little bit about that and, people dressing themselves and all that kind of stuff, but you can look it up yourself. You don't need me to ramble on about that stuff. But anyway, I don't think I need to go any further than that. I don't even know what I'm doing with this. This is just sitting down and rambling. I enjoy the idea of exploring the past. But if you don't know, you shouldn't just make up something about it. You should say, well, this seems really interesting. The idea of going to a grave site, and I know that I've done this because if you've been to a funeral, for example, and you go to where that loved one is to be interned, you'll notice that perhaps they're being buried next to another person that you would have known at some point, or they would have known at some point. I mean, these plots, as we like to call them, families kind of get them in groupings a lot of the time. But it's interesting when you walk around those places and you see that somebody they had a beautiful long life. There might be like their favorite Bible verse on that thing. Could be they mention, loved ones. And then there are others where you're like, well, this person didn't live past the age of 5. And then you think about the history of, at that point, was this somehow related to sickness that would have spread through the land? Was there a plague of some sort? There are some people you might see that they might have died in battle, or there are others that you might see that might have like I said, lived a long life. It's an interesting thing. In some ways, that is archaeology, and in everyday life, the information that holds your specific truths and your life experiences, some of that stuff gets lost. Now, we are in an information age, of course. But what's interesting about that is you can find information about yourself that isn't true, even now. So, I don't know what to tell you about King Tutankhamun. Some part of the hair of this kind of reminds me of like the lead vocalist for like the Stone Temple Pilots, Scott Weiland. I don't know why this does. That's this is a strange thing going on here. I'm probably going to end this soon because there's no direction going on here. I'm really just filling in stuff. For the handful of people that might be watching this, tell me what you think of what's going on here. Does this look like Scott Weiland's hair to you? I don't know where this came from. I don't know why it has this kind of thing going on to it. Just it's funny. This is more like his slithering days of hanging out with Slash and the Velvet Revolver, maybe. But he wouldn't have buttoned his shirt up like this. Oh, well. I think it's strange. Another thing that's super strange. What some are buried with. Some people are buried with their favorite clothing, favorite suit, a favorite dress, wedding rings, guitars, their cell phones. You put a lot of money into the ground. That's a pretty wild thing. I'm sure grave robbers are more interested in that than the stories. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks for hanging out. It's a pretty strange thing going on here. But I guess that's it. Ciao for now, folks.